Hey guys, the Explorer 4 is finally back. Once again, took a while off. I know the lighting is really bad. The background's very bright. But I know that I've been gone for a while. I haven't really made a video in a while, and I really did not know if I wanted to continue this series. But I figured that since I'd already reviewed the first movie, that it would make sense for me to continue reviewing the series. Even though I kind of got out of the mood for a while, but I did watch all these movies in a row, and it was pretty cool to kind of see the series come full circle. And Phantasm is a series that I really love, that I really enjoy, so I figured I would wrap up the franchise, and then kind of just figure out what I'm going to do after that. I knew for a fact I wanted to finish this franchise, but as far as after this franchise goes, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'll get into, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to think of something to do after this series. I just want to be careful because, I kind of just want to take this return one step at a time. I don't want to rush into a million things and review a million franchises and have to watch a million movies. I want to take this return just to see what I can do. Let's see what else I can do real quick. So I'll probably be doing a lot of experimenting with this return, doing different things. But I know I wanted to wrap this franchise up, and today we're talking about Phantasm II. Phantasm II came out in 1988, gets a 6.5 on IMDb. That's way too low. I would at least give it like a 7.0. It's a great sequel. Once again, directed by Don Coscarelli, and Phantasm II, I know that, it was made a while later after Phantasm 1. Don Coscarelli does it with this series a lot, and I actually really enjoy about this series is that, Don Coscarelli really takes his time with this series, and he really does put some space between these sequels, which really helps, because I think that if you rush a sequel out too fast, it sometimes lowers the quality of the sequel. I think the best series that's done that is probably like Friday the 13th, because it seems like every year in the 80s almost there was a new Jason movie, but it still was able to keep a very entertaining formula alive. And I think with Phantasm, if you would have made like umpteen sequels in one decade, it probably wouldn't have worked out so well, because with every one of these movies there's definitely a different tone, a different atmosphere, a different environment. And that's the other thing I really enjoy about this series is that, when you watch Phantasm 1, it's a very serious, very straightforward, very kind of psychological type of horror film. While as the sequel, Phantasm 2 is a much more action emphasis, much more about explosions and guns and about, the characters Mike and Reggie going after the tall man and getting revenge. And I really do enjoy that about this movie. This is most people's favorite sequel. It's some people's even favorite movie of the series. It's definitely my second favorite. Very close second favorite. It's a very good sequel. And there's just a lot going on in this sequel that I really do like. First of all, I do want to say that James Lee Gross playing Mike in this movie did a great job. I think they couldn't get back A. Michael Baldwin because Universal owned the rights to this film. I believe they still do, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Universal still does. So Universal owned the rights to this movie, and they did not want to get Michael Baldwin back, A. Michael Baldwin. So they got James LeGros to play more of a teenage Michael. Really, the only two people that returns in this movie is Reggie and Mike. Or not Mike, but Reggie and Tall Man. Really, those are the two characters that come back. I mean, you do have the characters Mike and Reggie in the movie, but A. Michael Baldwin didn't come back to play Mike. So, really, the only returning actors was Angus Scrimm and Reggie Bannister. And I like how in this movie, this is the point in the series where Reggie kind of just started taking over, the lead role. He started becoming the lead in these films. I think that was really well done. Phantasm 3, I'll get to that movie probably tomorrow or whenever I review it. But Phantasm 3, one of my problems with that movie is that A. Michael Baldwin came back, but he did not do anything in the movie. Now, I liked Reggie Bannister as the lead. I think Reggie as the lead is, one of the strong points from the series. But I also liked Mike as the lead. So I would have wished that they could have done something where it bounced back and forth between Mike and Reggie. Really, the only movie that happened with was Phantasm 4. You know, we had a lot about Reggie's side of the story, about Mike's side of the story. And I liked that. I thought that Phantasm 4 actually handled that very well. But with the rest of these movies, and also Phantasm 2 does a great job of having Mike, the character, and Reggie be the leads of the film. So that was pretty cool. I think that Reggie is a little bit more focused on this movie than he was in the first movie. In the first movie, he kind of got introduced in the movie, and he was kind of like a background character. He didn't do a whole lot. I mean, he helped them battle that weird, creepy bug creature. He helped them go back to the mortuary to battle the tall man. And then he got stabbed. And then I thought that when I was watching the first movie, I'm like, wait, so how did he get stabbed? And it looks like he died, but I guess it's the whole mind games thing where you think one thing happens, and really the ending was where this movie starts off, you know, where Reggie and Mike are sitting by the fire, and Mike goes upstairs, sees the tall man. This movie does a great job of picking it up right after the first movie. Although it is a little awkward because they have a stunt double in there that's supposed to represent, like, you know, A. Michael Baldwin's Mike character. And you can kind of tell it's a stunt man because it's a little bit taller than the other Mike and just looks a little different. So that was a little awkward. But you do have a great opening of the movie where these dwarfs come in and you get to see up close shots of the dwarf's face in this movie. Special effects by K&B, and K&B at this time was doing fantastic effects. I mean, you had Evil Dead 2, you had the legions and legions of other films they were doing. K&B being involved in this movie is also like one of the strongest things about this movie. I think it's that, and also the action element and a little bit of the comedy they added to the movie. It's a very different kind of movie than the first movie, but it's done very, very well. And K&B's effects are amazing. And you have the dwarfs at the beginning of the movie. You get to see the up-close shots of the face, and they're like zombie dwarfs. And you have that great scene where, you know, Reggie's fighting back. He gets a gun, fights back against the dwarfs, fights the dwarfs off a little bit. You have it where he gets Mike out of there, turns the stove on, but like it's a gas stove, so he rigs it to blow up. And the house blows up in a very practical effect. Like, it's very well done, very practical. And I believe they used, if not mistaken, they used that shot twice. They used it when Mike's house blew up, and they used it when Reggie's house blew up. And the way they shot it, I really couldn't tell it the first time I watched it. And it wasn't until I watched the special features, which the special features are great. There's a really great documentary on it called The Ball's Back, the making of Phantasm II. You also get deleted scenes, work print scenes, TV spots and trailers, and a commentary. And I kind of want to rewatch these movies again and listen to all the commentary. This is actually like the one franchise that I want to go back and listen to the commentary. You know, the last movie that I think that really happened with me was two movies, Halloween and Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. Those are the only two movies that I really wanted to go back and listen to the commentary. Every other movie that I've seen is like, it has commentaries, but I don't really want to go back and watch them for the commentaries. I guess commentaries are either a hit or a miss for me. Sometimes I listen to them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes turn commentaries on, and I kind of just turn them off. So that's kind of how I stand with commentaries. You know, sometimes I'll listen to them, but most of the time I kind of just don't. I think I also want to listen to the commentary with Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. That's a commentary I also want to listen to. But yeah, Phantasm II, I mean, it opens up with a giant practical explosion, kind of setting the mood for the movie. You have Reggie driving back to his house, Mike kind of telling him what's going on. Or not really, that's actually later on in the movie. What happens is, you know, Mike, it's years later, and Mike is in this, I guess, mental hospital. And he checks out, you know, he's clear to go. He meets up with Reggie, tells him the story. Reggie doesn't believe him. And it's kind of that weird thing. It's like, so did the explosion happen? Because Reggie's talking about the house exploding like as if it was a story that he made up. And you're kind of wondering, like, is it real? Is it not real? Did it really happen? So it's kind of the phantasm thing that goes on. It's that mind games thing where you don't really know if what you're seeing is real. And they're driving up to Reggie's house, and Mike kind of warns him, kind of has this, vision, I guess, and Reggie's house blows up with his wife and kids in there. And I really like how they added that in there because it really made you not like the tall man. You definitely wanted to see the tall man, get his comeuppance. And, Reggie, they go to the funeral, and Reggie's just out for revenge. He's out to avenge his family and, to help his friend Mike take down the tall man. And while that's going on, you have the story about the lead girl, pretty much the lead girl of this movie, and Mike is seeing her, that whole psychic thing where he's communicating with her telepathically. That idea, I don't know. That's like the one thing that bugs me about this movie is that whole psychic connection that him and the girl have, because I know they were gonna do a deleted scene where it was a love scene, but it was like a mental love scene where they'd be laying in the same bed. They wouldn't be doing it, but in their minds they'd be going through like the beach and through these beautiful areas while they're doing it. It's kind of like, I'm glad that was not in the movie because that probably would have made me hate it a little bit more. And I don't completely hate the idea. It's just a little funny because it's a thing that I thought Phantasm IV kind of did a little bit better, a little bit more subtler, where it's Mike and the tall man kind of having, where tall man wants to make him the next, Mike the next tall man. They handle that a little bit more better. And then 3, I don't really remember there being a psychic connection at all between anybody. And really, that didn't come back up in the series ever again. So this is really the only movie where like there's a psychic mental connection between two characters. And I don't know. I just thought that it was a little out of left field. I didn't really know how Mike kind of got these, where he can communicate with this girl. It's kind of like it just came out of nowhere. It kind of felt like it was just there to kind of bring the lead girl into the story. And the lead girl, I will be honest, she's not terrible, but I don't think she's that great of a lead. I think that she's okay. And her character is kind of pointless in the series because really in this movie, the big goal is to go and stop the tall man and rescue the girl. And the whole thing is, so Mike can get the girl, and she knows about the tall man, and she's the only other person to know about the tall man. And in Phantasm 3, spoiler alert, so you might want to skip this part a little bit, but spoiler alert, in Phantasm 3, she dies in the very opening of the movie. So it's like, what was the point of bringing her character in the series if you're just going to kill her off in the beginning of the next movie? Really, it was just to show that, so Mike can get the girl. And I guess add a second goal in there besides killing the tall man. And I don't know, the actress was okay. She just seemed a little stale sometimes, a little bland. But overall, I mean, she was, decent. I can say that she was decent. I just didn't think she was a very strong character personally. But, there are some really good scenes where, I like the way the mortuary looks in this movie. I like how in every movie the mortuary kind of looks different. In the first movie, it's that clean, crisp, bright mortuary, but yet it also has that creepy eeriness to it. You have this one where it's a little bit more run down. It's a little bit more, of a dusty, kind of dirty, dingy kind of mortuary. And then in 3, they kind of did that interesting thing where like there's a laser. They use a lot of laser lighting in that movie, which is pretty cool. And even 4 kind of had its own look, kind of going back to the roots of the original mortuary where it's kind of like that marble design. And 5 kind of had a weird one where it was kind of like 2, but also kind of like the first one's mortuary. So really I liked about the series how every movie they kind of did something different with the mortuary. And granted, this one's not as good as the first movie's mortuary, like the design-wise, but I like the idea of it being a more run-down, dingy, dirty kind of mortuary. You have some great scenes. Like you have, that scene with the lead girl. She runs into the tall man, and she kind of stabs that thing into his finger, and he, licks it. Kind of gross scene, but it's a really memorable scene. Angus Scrimm is amazing in this movie. I swear, in all 5 movies, Angus Scrimm never loses a step. He is 100% like one of the best horror characters I have ever seen in a horror film. And Angus Scrimm is one of the best actors I've seen portray a horror character. It's a very serious, in this movie, it's still a very opposing character. And I like that, how in the series they never made the tall man, not serious. They never made him a joke. He was always serious. He was always the enemy. And Angus Scrimm always had those great lines that are just really awesome. And he also had those just great moments that I think will always be remembered throughout horror history. And in this movie, I mean, you have some great scenes with Angus Scrimm. I mean, you have that scene. You have the scene where he's kind of making the formula that he uses to, I don't know, kind of control these dwarfs. Um, you have a couple of other scenes. Him and the priest, how he goes, "You think you go to heaven when you die? You come to me." And he kind of, wraps the necklace around the priest's neck and kind of hangs him for a second and kind of scares him. So yeah, some great scenes from the tall man. You have some really great gore effects. The priest gets a ball in the head after he gets his ear chopped off, but he gets the spear in his head, and once again that classic Phantasm scene where it drills into his head and it spurts out blood. Very, very good scene. Very classic, kind of throwback to the original. And you have some just wonderful stuff about this movie. Lots of gore, lots of blood, lots of practical effects, KMB effects, great acting. I thought that, James LeGros really played a great Mike. He did a great job kind of making this Mike a little bit more edgier, having a little bit more of a comedic aspect to Mike, and making Mike and Reggie just, go in there and fight the tall man, and for Mike's goal to get the girl. And I like that. I like how they get geared up. In this movie, you have the introduction of the 4-barrel shotgun that Reggie uses, pretty much his signature weapon throughout the entire series, which is pretty cool. Flamethrowers, and they're getting sledgehammers, they're getting all these things, chainsaws, they're gearing up for battle. I like how this idea is also introduced in this movie, where they're driving through and they're seeing a bunch of ghost towns, and you find that the tall man is not only taking bodies and shrieking them down to the dwarves, but he's killing towns. He's, decreasing populations. He's completely just causing towns to go extinct. And I love that aspect about this movie. And I like how it was carried on to Phantasm 3 and 4 and 5. I just like that. But you had that scene when they're driving through the abandoned town. They meet a hitchhiker who has like a weird fetish for bald people, which I heard that they just threw that in there because the actress was just like, okay, so how does this lady fall in love with a middle-aged bald guy? So the actress said, well, we could make it to where she has a fetish, maybe a bald head fetish. So you have the fun scene where she's having like the roughest sex you could ever see. She's slapping Reggie and hitting him, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is a funny scene, hilarious scene. And I like how before they go to the mortuary, they rig up the house. They have shotguns laid out. They have grenades laid out and stuff like that. Pretty cool scene. And then the movie is really great where they're going up to the mortuary. You have the car scene where classic Phantasm car chase and explosion. They get there. They battle a couple of the servants that, the tall man has. They shoot a couple of the dwarfs, a lot of action. You have the introduction of, the golden sphere, which is pretty awesome. There's, 3 spheres in this movie, and one of them's the golden sphere, which is pretty awesome, how it shoots a laser out, and it can burn through walls and stuff like that. And you have that great scene where Mike and the girl being chased, and one of the tall man's servants gets in the way, and the sphere hits him in the back. It kind of burrows up his back, and it comes out of his mouth. It's stuck right here in his mouth. Really good effect. And that great scene where they stick the formula in the tall man, and he practically just bubbles up and pus, and his eyeballs pop, and he pretty much melts. And the movie has a really confusing ending where you think that they killed the tall man, but the tall man shows up once again for a surprise kind of sequel bait ending where they're like, it's over, and the tall man's like, no, it's not. And he's in the car with them, and the girl, the girl who has that bald fetish, she kind of pulls a piece of her scalp off, and she's a servant of the tall man. And it pretty much ends like that, where you think that, okay, are these characters dead or are they alive, to find out to the next movie. So overall, Phantasm II has a lot going for it. It has great practical effects. It has great storytelling. It has great character development, great characters, great acting, and A great score. Awesome performance by Angus Scrimm as a tall man. Rest in peace to Angus Scrimm, he's a legend. It's just a fun sequel that's really, really good. It's not strong on the horror side, but it is a very fun, entertaining movie to watch. And I definitely recommend that you give Phantasm II a watch. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Phantasm II, The Ball is Back, and I'll see you guys in the next review. The Explorer of Horror is out.